Welcome to the International Teacher Podcast with your host, Matt the Family Guy, Kent the Cat Guy, Jacqueline from JP Mint, and Greg the Single Guy, bringing you episodes from around the world about the best kept secret in education. You got it, international teaching. Welcome to the show.
Okay, welcome to the International Teacher Podcast. I am JP Mint, and I am here with Kent the Cat Guy.
Good morning, JP Mint.
Good evening. And Greg is not with us, and he will be back very soon, we hope. Jess Gosling. Am I pronouncing that right? Gosling
You
or
are,
Gosling?
yeah, just like Ryan. Yeah.
It's like a soft S, Gosling. Jess Gosling is with us tonight from Bangkok, Thailand, I think I heard.
Rayong. So the east of Bangkok, on the coast by the sea.
On the
Yeah.
eastern side.
Yeah.
Is that like, do you mean east of Bangkok or in the Hua?
That's the west. So yeah, east of Bangkok. So Pattaya is above us, and then I live in the middle, and then Rayong's just at the bottom. Yeah.
And we're going to find out. We're going to jump right in. Are you at an international school there? Is it a British international school, judging from your accent?
So at the moment, I'm a trailing spouse. This is my first time in this role without having a child, so I'm completely carefree. My family are here. My husband's working in the British International School, but it's actually IB, but done through the British system. My daughter's in the international school as well, but I am not. So I'm here on the first settling year to get us all sorted, and it's been a very, very nice transition, I have to say.
You're not finding the lack of routine or classroom management and all of that. You're not missing any of that.
Well, that's a good question, because before I came, I was really, really nervous about that. And I thought, how do you go from this crazy, busy lifestyle to the opposite? And I got a bit of coaching about that, actually, to support me with that change, which has a lot. But now I'm sort of more working on my own fitness and wellness. So I recognize as a teacher that can go downhill quite a lot, which has been wonderful, and a great way of meeting people as well. So, about 3 days a week, I'm actually out of the house and doing things with other people all day. So I'm quite busy. I'm also doing some mindfulness for the first time in my life, and I'm finding that's really, really great and really helping me to slow everything down. Learning some Thai, of course, that's very important. And doing bits with education. Like, you still see me, I'm still involved in education. So yeah, it's
Jess,
very
you don't seem to be the type of person who sits around bored a lot. You previously, at least I know, you've podcasted, you've written blogs, you've written a book. I think you earned a degree fairly recently. Tell us just a little bit about how do you manage it all? I mean, on top of previously having a job, how do you manage your time?
Well, I think when I had a job, it was quite difficult. And I think other things slide when you make yourself so busy. Writing the book came in the COVID time, where I think a lot of people did quite extreme things, where I felt quite trapped, certainly where I was living, and we couldn't actually go abroad for 3 years. So it was a really weird time. And then I thought, right, I'll just write a book then, which was strange because I was blogging a lot and I felt there was a need for a book. So that's why I did it. But I do feel if you keep yourself so busy.
Can you tell us the title of that book?
Yes, Becoming a Successful International Teacher.
We're going to put that in the show notes, right, Ken?
Thank you. Yeah,
absolutely. And before we get to the book, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Where did you grow up? Did you dream of becoming a teacher and an author? Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jess.
Not really. I think it's a strange answer. I always knew I wanted to live abroad, so I began sort of travel quite young. I was 15 with a backpack going around Ireland with my best friend. I don't know why our parents allowed that. It was a different time and age. And then I was 19 and I came here, and this was my first proper international country, and I absolutely love Thailand. I stayed longer than I should. I went to Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia too, but really just jumped around those places because I love Thailand so much. So I knew after I did my degree that I would want to be international. So the first thing we tried, it was myself and my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband. We went to Japan to teach in primary schools to be the English teacher. which was a real shock to the system. I think could have been far more removed from what we were used to. And the working day was very hard. So it gave us a real insight on what teaching was like to a certain degree. And then we went back home to get qualified. We did 2 years in the UK. That never felt right for us, really. It was we just didn't have the same enjoyment. We, as many teachers report now, it just it's a very difficult work environment. So we went to Egypt, and we were there as part of the revolution. That still didn't sway us. We still stayed 2 years. We
Ooh.
didn't break contract. Yeah, and then we went to subsequent countries after. But to answer your question about being a teacher, I think I didn't realize. I know that I used to always love playing with my friends' siblings because I'm the youngest child, so I didn't have siblings, little ones. And I remember I did a work placement in a library, and the main thing I liked was reading books with the little children. That was like the highlight of my week. But I think sometimes you just don't realize what's good for you. So it was that experience of wanting to go and live and work in Japan that opened my eyes up to teaching. I think also it's not an easy profession, like I think I'm not a very, very extrovert person. And in my mind, a teacher was always this, very big, loud, brash character, which my husband is, so the kind of the opposite. But yeah, but all kids like different types of characters. So there's a place for everyone in teaching, really. So yeah, I'm very glad I did it. And my life wouldn't have taken this trajectory at all, I think, if I hadn't got into teaching. So for me, it was a real blessing.
And what were you teaching when you were in the classroom?
So my sort of focus is, we say Key Stage 1, so that's age 5 to 7. But the past few years, I've focused on below that. So I think you call it preschool. So the 4 to 5-year-olds, and
Like
I like
early
the 3 to 4.
childhood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like really 3 to 5 is lovely, I think. But it's hard work. It's tiring. But it's a lot of fun.
And so you said you went back to the UK to do your teaching degree. Can you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that? Was that strictly a PGCE, or was that some kind of a degree working towards your QTS, your qualified teacher status?
That was a PGCE. So I did the 1 year there, which was very intense. So you do it as part of the university as well. So you do all the coursework and everything, and you're in the classroom. I think it's a really, really difficult route, actually. And if I had known earlier, I think I would prefer the 3 years Bachelor of Education. I think that's a lot more, not easier, but less stressful way of doing it. There was a lot to do in 1 year. And then after, in that time, you had 1 year to qualify. We call it induction in the UK, where you have 1 year in the classroom and you're still being tested all the time. I think it's now moved to 2 years, which is even harder for teachers. And then I stayed an extra year because I knew at that point that international schools really for 2 years experience. So I also think it's a really good thing to do to get grounding in your own country, because you have a bit of a benchmark then as well. So I learnt a lot in those 2 years. Yeah.
Jess, in the United States, we pretty much have one qualification. It's a teacher certification. It's issued by each individual state. In the UK, there are different pathways and different degrees in teaching. I know this comes up in your book. What advice do you give to young people wanting to get in teaching, particularly in the UK, about what pathway would be most successful if they would like to go into international teaching?
Yeah, I think it depends so much on the person. That's the thing. I mean, I know people who have gone, it's called a SCITT, SCITT, and that one is when you're in the school all the time and you do a little bit outside towards getting your qualification. And I think some people like that because you can earn at the same time. Because not forgetting, when you take years out of a job, you're losing money effectively. So that's one route that I think is quite popular, but it's hard work. PGC, I guess we just want to get it over with and done. In 1 year, it's not a bad option. But like for myself, I think if I had known that I loved teaching so much and it would be my life career, I think the longer education degree is a really good idea. I also did a master's after my PGCE, so about 10 years after. And I liked that because at that stage, I knew really what area I wanted to specialize in. So this was an early years master's. And although it doesn't qualify you for teaching, it gives you all that theory and backbone and ideas.
And Jess, are you finding in the UK and British international schools especially that the master's is becoming kind of the new minimum, the new bachelor's? It seems to me in the work that I do that I'm seeing a lot of masters these days.
No, I don't know really. The British schools that we've applied to, we didn't find it really made any difference because, of course, my husband doesn't have one and I do. It seemed to be more based on the interview. And what I'm finding now, because we went through this round again, is there's many more interviews and in many more different ways. Like, the video recorded interview with 5 questions first, and then somebody else and somebody else. And even my last school, which is quite a small school in Poland, I had 3 interviews, I think, and they were fairly intense, and quite grilling. And I remember when I first started, it was 1 interview, and it was more the international schools wanted you there. The first job for Egypt, I walked in, we did really like the headmaster, he was wonderful, and he was convincing us to go and join him. So I think that's where it's reversed. Like, I think now the playing field's much, much more challenging. And you've got to, but I think it's not only masters, I think other things you do can really impress. So, for example, my last principal loved the fact that I was involved in social media and I was doing a lot for other teachers. The principals before that liked that I set up an early years business and I worked with parents. Like they weren't, so they didn't even ask about the masters, and I just received it. So that was quite unusual. But I think you just can't judge what the school's going to want, can you really? But I think doing some different things where you show your interest in education, not
You
just your
mentioned
job,
social
I
media.
think goes well.
Sorry, we've got a bit of a lag here. So you mentioned social media. I would like to, that's how I learned about you. So I'd like to put a plug in for that. Can you tell us a little bit how you got into that?
Yeah, so I set up a Facebook group, I think about 5 years ago, because I was telling Kent about how I'd noticed how some of the Facebook forums could be quite unkind to people who ask questions, just trolling, basically. So to join my Facebook group, you've got to promise to be kind and treat everyone with respect. But I really mean it. So if someone starts being very negative or unkind, that I've booted them off before, it's not allowed. You agree to it, it's not allowed. It's for the very brand new teachers who are really considering making this move, and it's maybe really quite terrifying for them. So any question can be asked there. So it's called New to International Schools Teachers, and that's what it's really intended for. We do have people who have been teaching a long time on there, and they often offer advice. So if you're someone who likes offering advice, it's great to have you on as well. And I post sort of articles and blogs that I come up with, podcasts like yourself that we come up with. And some recruiters have sort of come onto that as well. And I'm finding it's more the small recruiters that seem to ask to join and post there. I'm not really sure why, but we're happy to have them on, as long as they're genuine and they're quite good jobs, and I know they pay quite well. We're happy to have them on, yeah. I mean, one of them,
I noticed that as well, that there were the smaller recruiters. And I think it's word of mouth.
Yeah. I mean, I've spoken to some of the recruiters as well, which is quite nice. And
being part of that website, being part of the Facebook with New International Teachers, what are new international teachers most curious about? Has it changed over the years since you started out in the business? Is it pretty much the same questions? What's it like for people who are new or wanting to become international teachers? What's on their mind?
I think the main thing is how to find a job. Because I kind of, I've been doing a series of blogs more recently because I can do that because I'm not working full time, and I can see how many people sort of tune into certain blogs. But they really want to know how to find a job, and because there are certain places you can go, but we know as international teachers, there's other ways too, like word of mouth and following your last principal somewhere else, and LinkedIn and forums and things. So it's quite nice to help people with that side of things. But yeah, I wouldn't say things have changed very much. I think more people are going for it now, definitely. And I'd say there's a range of ages as well. I remember like when I started up, it was more young people that really did it. But now I think I see people with families and older people doing it as well. And people, that are looking in their 50s even to come out.
Yeah, I've noticed the range of ages coming out, deciding to retire either from their home country or just stop teaching in their home country and head overseas. A lot of empty nesters, as we call them, that have their children in the university and or well settled and are now ready to have an adventure. Jess, is your book more geared towards British teachers, or would you say that it has something for everyone?
It has something for everybody. It's coming from mainly my experience, but there are other people who all review the chapters and put in their bits as well. My experience obviously is British and IB schools. So, you know, there is a lot of crossover, and especially more for once you get there, what do you do? And how do you prepare to get there? Because I think certainly I did this where I got the job and I really didn't think about it until we were getting on the plane. I really didn't think at all. But there's all those things like setting up standing orders, direct debits, you know, your tax, all of these kind of things. So where it's specific to tax and things, that would be more the UK. But otherwise, I'd say it's open to everybody. Yeah.
It sounds like it would be good advice to have a look at it and prepare for your, so it helps you look for a job as well as the transition, correct?
Yeah. So I kind of segment it to thinking about when you want to leave to go, you know, how many years experience are you going to, you know, would help you, and what time of the year, where you're going to go. And I really emphasize like that's different for everybody. And, you know, if you have a family, you're looking for very different situations. If you're single, how to find the right school, because I think that's also a massive one. And it's really hard to tell just from their website, etc. So how to investigate and research to find the right school for you. And then, how to prepare for the move, how to make sure you've got all your communications open, you know, and so you don't get lonely and you know, a bit culture shocked at the beginning, what you can do. And then how to thrive once you're there. I think I've been very lucky. There's only really been one position where I didn't connect so well with the community. And it can happen, but I think if you put lots of things in place when you first get there, which I detail in the book, you will connect with people really quickly. And I think that's incredibly important to help you feel that you're going to settle.
I think what sets your book apart, Jess, is that it's kind of a step-by-step guide. The chapters kind of build through the process. And I think you say in your introduction that there are other books out there and other information on social media about international teaching, but really the gap that you were trying to fill with your book was just sort of solid advice based on your experience and interviews with that kind of how you navigate the process each one step at a time.
Yeah. And I also wanted to make something that wasn't so big, because, you know, like you get bored, like there's not many people, especially I think if they're looking at it and they're just desperate to go, that they want to read, you know, I don't know, some sort of research study on it. You know, I think it's more interesting to just know, and each step, what's going to happen and what you can do. And also, I also put in my pitfalls as well, because I did have quite a lot of pitfalls, and it's nice that other people won't have that situation as well. I hope that's why I said a step-by-step guide, because it's not a massive academic text. It's not going to be boring. I hope not. And I also try to ask people on the very last chapter. I've got voices from lots of different people I've known throughout my career, including recruiters as well as principals, etc., and their experiences. So it's not just my voice in there, because I know people who maybe are thinking of going abroad with a family might be very nervous. So there's that sort of experience written about. And I did a chapter on that as well, because for me, it's the most important thing. And I think a lot of people could feel like that, because you're effectively changing your whole life. You know, I think it's not just about going overseas to a job. You know, your whole life is changing. So you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing and you're well prepared.
Jess, can we talk about how you're finding your jobs? Because are you going the route of the recruiters? Are you using the same recruiters as Americans and Canadians? Or is there a place for British international school teachers to look more particularly?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I haven't really been very successful as recruiters, just a funny thing to say. I just found, and this is my experience only, but I found they undercut quite a lot. So when I was comparing what salary should be, etc., I felt it was a lot lower. For example, was Poland. I got a job in zloty offered to me through the TES, which is a Times Educational Supplement, and it was a third higher than what any recruiter had offered me. So that's where my problem lies with it. It's I don't know why, but it always seems to me that the salary isn't really what I would expect. Although saying that, there's some lovely search boards with recruiters, such as I think it's Teacher Horizons. You can search, there's jobs that come up and it's quite helpful, and it will tell you salaries and things. There's information on, and you just have to become a member, which is free. So yeah, the one I always use is Times Educational Supplement, which is online, completely free, and it has really good search for country, for age group, for what you're looking for. And I've always been successful through there. I'm not saying that I only just apply for one, though, because I think that's what people think. It's huge, the amount you might have to apply for, especially my first job. I think I must have applied for at least 30. And then randomly, I went to an open day for a set of schools. They were ESOL schools, and I got a job there. It can be a very slow process. And I think that's what people have to really realize as well. And I feel you get better at applying the more you apply to. Same with interviews. So sometimes I apply for those schools that I'm not crazy about at the beginning, to have a bit of practice, and that really does help. And just making sure you really tailor everything to the school. You need to sound like you're already working there. I say, all the language they use.
And as you said, making sure that you're doing your research as well, contacting people on LinkedIn if you know them, or if you can find them, or if you get to a certain stage in the interview process, you could always ask the head of school or HR, could you forward me a couple of teachers' email addresses that I could reach out to and chat with? So that way you can ask your sometimes more uncomfortable questions, about safety or pollution, and you won't come off as too doom and gloom with the head of school.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's really, really important. Like when I'm sometimes even considering a school before I've even applied, I sometimes that early will put it on a forum. Is anyone working there, or knows anyone working there? Because I think it's so important to speak to people who are currently there. You've got to remember it's one experience. But, if someone really warns you off a place, I probably would heed it. And I've even found through LinkedIn, people have been really kind and helpful. They've been happy to give, this random person who approaches them some, information about a school. So I feel as long as it doesn't cross over into things that might come up in interview, that would be quite unprofessional to do that. But to ask about, how do you feel within the school? Is it a happy place to work? I mean, that's always my first question. Are teachers happy there? But you can't really know till you go there as well. Don't forget that.
Jess and JP, with your permission, I would love to take advantage of Jess's personal passions in early childhood education, in addition to you having how old is your, is it daughter or son? I think daughter, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, you're right. So yeah, she's 10.
She's 10
10
now.
years old.
Oh my goodness. Let me take advantage of your expertise for a second, if I may. You lived in Japan for a while. In Japan, they kind of don't test much until maybe their kids are about 10. In Finland, maybe they don't even go to school full time till they're a little older. In the United States, we've pushed literacy and math down to very young ages. Just in your personal opinion, what should early childhood, does it need to be this rigorous process starting at a young age? What is your personal opinion, living with your daughter and seeing of how early childhood education should progress?
Yeah, I think it has to be about relationships. Definitely the most important thing for them. And yeah, personal, social, emotional education beyond everything else. And I actually argue that should go the whole way up through the primary school. That should be a big focus. There are some lovely schools, very international schools, that do put that as actually a subject, a real core subject in their curriculum. And they do it throughout the school, so the children grow up knowing all the techniques. Because I think due to COVID and other things, we do have children that are really nervous, really anxious, and they kind of put into a school that's quite demanding. And for all its great points, the British system, I feel, is quite demanding academically. I do like the US system because it used to be anyway, not that such a high expectation to such young children. Because we're expected the children are going to read and write by the time they're 4 to 5. And children don't work like that. We know that because we're teachers. It's not natural for a lot of them to be doing that. Yeah, I think the overhaul of the system would have to be just being kinder, remembering their children, and more of a sort of bottom-up approach. So start with the youngest and think what they need to do, and then go up, because it's always been top-down. And my husband, he's a grade 4 teacher, and I used to look at his curriculum, and I couldn't believe it compared to what my grade 1s were doing at the time. It seemed that we had so much more to do with such younger children. And it does need to change, and it's been going the same way for a very, very long time, especially the British system. And, teachers know it needs to change, but it's politicians and people higher up that probably haven't been in a school since they've actually were being taught in a school. I think they know better. I mean, this is one thing I do love about international schools, and I say to people, they're more flexible, definitely. So wherever I've gone in, I've been able to adjust my curriculum to really suit the children. And I think the fact that children are nearly all EAL in all of the schools I've been in really helps, because there's an understanding that they're having to learn the language first, So we're lucky in international schools for that reason.
Not to mention the extra assistants. Usually you might have 1 or even 2 assistants in an international classroom, whereas back home you may be on your own with 30 kids.
Exactly. I was a teaching assistant first. After Japan, and I was shared between 4 class teachers with 2 receptions and 2 year 2 classes, and I was 1 TA. So can you imagine how much poor reception had me? I was virtually never there, and this teacher had 30 children, like you said, and she had to get them dressed and undressed, and it's very, very challenging. And not good for the kids. That's the main thing. It's not good for them. We know they need lots of interactions with adults to really progress.
All right, let's take a moment for a little commercial about how to get in touch with us. You can, of course, find all 4 of us at the itpexpat.com. That's www.itpexpat.com.
Or you could also find us at email at internationalteacherpodcast@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
Or if you're into Facebook, we have a new Facebook group at www.facebook.com/groups/ITPexpat, where you can find all kinds of inside information about ITP Expat.
You can also find us on Instagram at ITPXpats. That's with an S. ITPXpats is our handle.
All right, and thank you, listeners. We have over 100 countries represented by our listeners, and though we're not monetized, we are here for you, and we would like to thank all of you for listening. So let's get back to the show.
I don't want to pry too much, but if you could tell us a few words about the ups and downs of your own 10-year-old daughter being part of an international teaching family, living abroad for a large portion of her life. What's that been like?
I think it's mainly ups, so I'd hope she'd say it's mainly ups. We did decide for me to not work this year predominantly for her, because we knew this transition would be quite hard, because she's 10 now, and I think that's a tricky age for girls as well. And I just wanted to be more available, because previously with us both working in quite demanding schools, this can be a bit of an attack on her. So she loves Thailand. She is practically Asian because she was raised in Vietnam. She was raised in Vietnam, then raised in Taiwan, and then we went back for 2 years to Poland. And although she did like that, she did not like the cold, much like her parents. So it was quite easy for us to come back. She was really excited to come here. The only downside, and which I would emphasize to parents, is the family issue. We do miss the extended family that are at home, and she does have a close bond with her grandma. But we kind of override that because they speak several times a week. Grandma still does stories at night time, which is great for us because we're exhausted at that point. So we keep up our contacts like that. But overall, I think she understands we have a nice life here compared to what we probably would have in the UK. For example, we have a little villa here. It's just a 3-bedroom place, but it has its own little pool. It's in a really safe compound, so she has a little friend up the street. We live next to a fishing village that's full of like nice restaurants. She's got the beach 10 minutes drive, like a white sand beach, a beautiful sea, and so I think the lifestyle is really, really exciting for her. And the school too. The school is international schools I find are generally this way because, they're paid for. They're very, very caring. They have a lot of amenities. They really do look out for the kids. So she's felt quite happy. She had a difficult week at the beginning just with the transition from her old school. But after that, she's flying now with things. So I'd say for most children, when they see what they're offered in an international school, they will love it. They will like it.
Well, when I think about the day-to-day courses, first of all, they're usually very interesting, very engaging, because parents are paying a lot of money for the privilege to go to these schools, and so they want the best teachers, they want the best programs, but then also after school you have this whole rest of the day, the extracurricular activities. Is your daughter involved in a lot of things after school as well, like sports or clubs or?
Yeah, this has been the schools have the most available, to be fair. I mean, teachers do 2 after-school activities each, and I think the PE staff do 3, which is quite a workload. I mean, it does mean the children have a lot. So yeah, she has drama and choir and crochet, very English, and gardening club. So like that, it is really nice for them that they get to actually choose what they want to do after school. But there's horse riding, there's mountain biking, swimming, football. There's all kinds of things going on.
And your daughter's never lived in the UK other than the summers or holidays. She's never gone to school there?
No. I don't know how easy it would be for her, to be honest. I think
so she's going to be, she is a true TCK. Do you use that term as well in the UK?
Yeah. We kind of think, and I was thinking really far ahead, but when she gets to around 16, we'll see if she wants to go back and do sixth form college in the UK, because that might be a very nice option. But at the moment, she's very happy here, and I think she wouldn't want to. We'll have to see. But university, I think it would be great if she could go and live back in her own country, and she does see it as home. And we do have a family home there, not ours, but it's a family home. So she identifies that definitely as her home.
What's next for you, Jess? You gonna keep up with the social media, keep up with the Facebook page? You got another book coming up on the horizon? What do you think?
No, I'm not sure about another book. I'm finding the time's going too fast. I did think I'd do all these wonderful things, but it's flying by. So yeah, I keep up with the social media and continue to help people looking into international schools, which I really enjoy. I'm connected with Women Ed Thailand here, and we're rejuvenating that group because it's kind of quieting down quite a bit. So we're trying to get our webinars up and going, and the network.
Tell us a little bit about that group. You call it Women Ed.
Women Ed. So I wrote in their most recent book, I did a chapter on imposter syndrome. Which was ironic because I felt the fact it's in the book, I felt an imposter. Looking through all these big names going, oh, how did this get in? But I did read it and I decided it was quite good. So there you are. But they're a fantastic group, and they're basically a voluntary grassroots organisation that support teachers, female teachers on all levels, but mainly to try and get them into leadership roles because leadership is massively underrepresented with females. And I'd say before, when I would never consider leadership, when I first connected with them and through various webinars, and I actually met with Vivian Pyrots, one of the people who set it up, I decided to go into leadership and try it. And I did really enjoy that time there, and I felt I was doing something really great. So it really is like a confidence building and the nicest set of people all in one place. So if I had a query, for example, when I was being interviewed for a leadership role, I just put it on Twitter, and then somebody gave me a fake interview an hour later, like a principal of an international school. So it's kind of this system where women just empower women, give each other a leg up, like so we can get where we should be. But also it's open to males as well that support the initiative. So it's not anti-men or anything. It's we need males too to help us. But yeah, it's a wonderful group, and they're all around the world. So if you're international, you can connect with them, and often they do events where you actually just go and network. And again, it's a very comfortable environment. People are just very friendly and open, and it's kind of, it sounds cheesy, but I will use the word, sort of a sisterhood, I'd say. Like there isn't any unkind people. It's lovely. So I've reconnected with them, and we did an event last week. Tomorrow, I'm going to do an author's chat with Kelly Ridings and Amy Melton. They did international books as well. We're trying this out we're just going to focus on getting a job, because this is the stage people are at the minute.
I've signed up for that, so you'll see
I
me
saw,
very bright and early.
Well, at least it's early that.
Yeah.
Maybe too early for you though.
I follow Kelly Riding or Ridings with an S.
Ridings, I think, isn't it?
Ridings, yeah. I follow him on LinkedIn. I find his articles and the way he thinks to be very easy, very clear to follow, and former head of school now, moving into consultancies. If people want to look up Kelly Ridings on LinkedIn, he's very active there.
He's incredibly smart as well, and he's done a PhD, and I think it's great because when we first started chatting, we decided that it'd be great if he could do it from a principal's perspective, because he was saying some things to me about CVs and selection. And I was like, teachers don't know any of this because we're not in your position. And then equally, I'm doing a teacher's side of it, and a teacher with a family. it's a very different side to him. So it's really nice. And Amy's doing about repatriation, because she actually went back to the UK and America, and is working in international school, which I think is really interesting. So yeah, it should hopefully be a really nice chat, if anything. I'm looking forward to it.
People will be listening to this in a few weeks and go, oh, I missed it. So maybe what will happen is they'll reach out to you and say, hey, could you have another one? So
yeah,
it's quite
we
possible.
will record. Yeah, we'll record it, and I'll share it on the new for International Teachers group, and Kelly, I'm sure, will share his as well, and anyone who signed up will have the recording. Yeah, we hope to do more, and it'd be nice to have some feedback maybe, so we discover what people really want to hear as well, want to know about. And for myself, I'm thinking, carrying on with my positive education and developing myself, lots of yoga, lots of Pilates, which is but also maybe doing some filming as well, maybe doing some courses, because I do like training. So I'm going to see about that maybe later, particularly in the early years environment, because I think there's a bit of a gap for international schools, early years, like how should you work with children who are completely AL kind of thing. So there's lots for older kids, but often the early years get forgotten about, which I don't know why. In lots of ways, to be fair.
And it's funny, the clients that I have that are in early years, when I tell them that you have a specialty that you are now, sometimes they're partnered up with a middle school ELA, language arts or history teacher. And I will say, I think we should use the joint cover letter from your perspective, because you're the specialist. And they look at me through the video call like, what? They never thought of early years as a specialty, but it has become very specialized with their own education, with their own way of thinking about child development. What are your thoughts about the fact that it's a specialty?
Absolutely, it's a specialty. Because I was a primary teacher trained with the specialism of to 5 to 7, but early years is obviously younger than that. And that's why I went back to university to study early years specifically, because, to understand how to really work with them, you really got to know how their brains work, what to expect of them, what their different schemas are, all of these things, and it's heavily involved in neuroscience as well. There's such a depth to it, and I think people who think there isn't, they're not really doing it right. I can say, you can tell the people who sort of come in the room, and I've seen this, and just drop a load of boxes on the floor and then there you go. That's not working with early years, and it's interesting, and I can tell very quickly those that are really experienced, or even from a conversation, I know, because we will match on almost everything we see. And I mean, this can be a thing as well with international schools, that they don't really understand that.
Well, and because they might have just a few classes, they don't have that many teachers, and so the teachers' voices are kind of small. I remember I was a junior intermediate. In Canada, we do PJ, primary junior, so that would be like kindergarten to grade 5. And then I was junior intermediate, so grade 4 to grade 10 training. And then intermediate senior is like grade 7 or 6 to 12. So I was at 4 to 10 because I thought, well, that way I can work in an elementary school, I can work in a high school. And I got hired as a French teacher from junior kindergarten, which are 4-year-olds, all the way to grade 8. So 13-year-olds. And I had 32 students teaching French in a grade 8 classroom. And right after, I would have to run to the junior kindergarten class, the 4-year-olds. And so, 32 grade 8s, I'm like, and then I would come in, and that first day when I walked into the junior kindergarten class, I had 4 kids crying just from my tone of voice. I was like, all right, everybody, let's gather up here. Okay, put your stuff away. What are you doing over there? Come on over here to the carpet. And 4 kids just bawling. And I looked at what happened. And I realized, yes, I need training. I needed something. So do you know what I did? From that day on, I had a monster puppet, and the monster puppet was my voice, and they completely accepted that. It was like, hey, everybody, all right, come on over to the carpet over here. We're going to gather around. They were like, yeah, it's the puppet that has the bad voice.
Yeah, it's totally different. But then I feel I couldn't do a high school level either. They would eat me alive. Yeah. Look, I'd be too nice. It's a totally different career, I think, almost.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Jess, I'm going to put you on the spot here in just a second, but I think from now on, JP Mint will be doing her interviews with that same monster puppet. So stay tuned, ITP crowd, the JP Mint monster puppet. Jess, again, let me put you on the spot just a little bit. I loved what you said about this field of neuroscience for young, for our early years people, students. Do you have a recommendation for any social media or a book or anything where someone who is curious but doesn't know much can learn more about these early years in our students?
Yeah, I'd say someone I really like following is Julian Grenier. He had his own, he's quite a legend actually. He had his own nursery in a really deprived area of the UK. And he had really children from difficult circumstances all brought together. And he turned it around in his headship there and made it outstanding. And then he sort of affected the council there as well and made other nurseries outstanding. And then he went and worked for Ofsted, which I don't know why that happened. But I don't know, maybe it's get an insider's view and give them some input on early years. And then he's left that since then. And you can find him quite easy on LinkedIn. And he's quite into social media, but he writes books that are really great. And he did one, something like putting evidence into practice, something like that, where he just looked at different areas of early years and made very short chapters, working with other authors who are experts to just give you really good advice for every area of early years. And I thought that was a really, really useful book. But there are there's a few people that it depends on your standpoint with early years as well, whether you're someone who thinks you need to sit at the front and direct them a lot, or whether you like in the moment sort of planning and working with them. So there's different people that are quite strong in different areas of early years. It's not cut and dried, unfortunately.
You made me realize I wanted to know if Montessori and Reggio Emiliana If those are still terms or programs that
Yeah,
people are using, yes.
yeah, definitely. I mean, the British system is sort of, or the framework for England is found in Reggio Emilia. So it is supposed to be, well, in theory, what the curriculum document says, which isn't always adhered to, is following the interests of the child and adapting what you do, to be really play based and responsive to them. But with all the sort of issues and the demands from different areas in the UK and different people, that this is where sort of phonics has taken over and phonics schemes and maths can be pushed. And I'd say in a lot of UK schools, they can look very much like the older kids' classes now. It's trying to squeeze the play in rather than that being the main pedagogy. Which is sad. But yeah, there's Montessori schools which are quite separate, and often there's like private kindergartens that do all these different styles, and Steiner and
Like Waldorf is another one, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. But yeah,
It's
I
interesting.
really like the Reggio.
I've really enjoyed our chat with you because of the expertise that you have and the outlook that you have as well. Tell us, in all your travels, and now that you've come to Thailand, are there 3 things you need to take with you to make home feel like home? And we're not talking family. So on top of
I was
family,
gonna say family.
yeah, on top of family, are there 3 things that you feel like you need to have to make it a home?
I think books is quite important to me because I love books so much, and it was very hard to leave a lot this time because we only came with 3 bags, because we only ever come with 3 bags, which astounds
Wow.
people. We never
I
ship.
love that.
Yeah.
3
We're the
bags each?
backpackers. No,
3 bags
altogether.
each.
So we had 90 kilos. We were lucky because we went with Emirates. Yeah.
Wow.
So this was high, but it did get to the point where we were about to leave for the taxi to the airport, and we were taking out books. And me and my daughter were like, oh,
No, your favorite book's left behind.
favorite books left
Heartbreaking.
behind. It's horrible. I hate that. But I have an iPad. I can read on that, but I love books. So I always find the nearest secondhand bookshop when we get to a new place, which they have here, which is great. So books is really, really important to me. A way to contact people is another. So I would say phone, because that's the main thing. But for me to settle and to feel happy, I need to know I'm going to have regular contact with everyone that are now around the world. But now I'm in this time zone, I'm quite happy because I can actually call friends who are still in Vietnam and Taiwan, which is really, really lovely. So I need some way of contacting people. And a third thing, I'm not really partial to anything. I would have said years ago, like Crunchies or Dairy Milks, like certain chocolates from the UK. But now I'm kind of on a no sugar diet. So I can't even take those things with me. So yeah, I say those are my 2 main things. And yeah, like you said, my family. Yeah, and also, actually, if we have to say 3 things, I would say a good set of basic clothes. Because particularly Asia is a bit of a nightmare if you're anything over a size 4. So I like to bring those things with me. Just 1 set or 2 sets that I know are going to see me through, so I can buy some other stuff. But I'm not sentimental. I never have been. I don't. It's quite bad, but I don't keep any even photos or images. I want to put some pictures up here because we're going to stay here long term. But I have lived in places where I don't keep anything. And even with the next move, it's just the fundamentals that go. I'm not really materialistic.
Well, I told JP Min, I said, if there's anyone who's had a run-in with authorities, it's Jess Gosling. So,
Yeah.
Jess, in all your years of traveling the world, have you come face to face and head to head with the authorities?
I'm very good, so no, I haven't. I'm not going to have an interesting travel.
We'll save the true story for our Patreon.
Well, then sometimes what gets people thinking is a custom story. Have you any custom stories that are kind of funny? Airport customs or something?
Just find airports such annoying places. I mean, we are very sneaky, as in we're very sneaky, because we have a child. We do use her, the poor thing. And you can often put car seats in
I hear
bigger
a
bags.
future of running with the authorities coming up.
Well, you can put like car seats and kids things in bigger bags, and I have stuffed lots of extra things in these bigger bags. And Ryanair was the best one I actually got round because I think they're so awful. And we had a car seat with a zip they didn't know about, and it actually opens up, and I had all my books in there. So I kind of lifted it and made it look like it was really light, because she was like, "That's a car seat." Yeah, it's a car seat. It's not a bag. It's a car seat. And yeah, I had like 10 books in it. Yeah.
I love that.
I hate that. It makes us feel sick every time, because we're obviously bringing 90 kilos or whatever. You're always worried that the scales are right, or, and I'm sure the airport scales are different to ours.
Wow.
Always
Jess,
think-
you've just opened up a new category on the ITP podcast. It's the things that we get away with when we travel.
That's awesome.
I love that. Let's go.
I admire that zipper and cramming things in. I've never even thought of that. What I do is I go to the airport duty free, and I ask them for the biggest bag they have. I buy a little packet of gum, and I say, "Oh, can you get me one of those big bags?" And then I just jam all the stuff in that bag, and then kind of try and close it and say, "Oh no, I got duty free." If I'm on an airline like EasyJet, I usually think EasyJet is like that. I had to do that once.
Yeah.
Well, let's get final thoughts. We'll start with JP, and then I'll come to you, Miss Jess. JP, final thoughts.
Well, I'm kind of fangirling, because I've been following Jess on the Facebook group for, I would say, like 2-3 years. And so I'm just really happy you've come onto the show and shared your thoughts and your ideas, and really glad that we could connect this time.
Great. Jess, what do you think? Final words?
The same for JP. You see, I've known about her because she's posted on my group a lot, and it's really nice to, people might think it's my group and I want it all about me or whatever, but it really isn't. And I really like it when people are doing something different or supporting international teachers and they want to post there, because, the more voices you have of different people's experience is so important. So I really like what you're doing as well, JP. So thank you. And keep it up. Keep it going. Hope it keep going well. And I'm glad we can finally do it.
What words of wisdom would you have for somebody thinking of taking the plunge?
I would definitely say prepare and research. Don't do it just because all change is scary, and I believe all change is quite difficult. And I feel the more you can read and research, the better. And ask people who are already doing it. Turn up to the events when people put them on. Listen to the podcasts. And, just make sure you really know what you're getting into. And also, I'd say the most important thing, possibly even over researching the country, though they are close, is really getting to know what the school's like. And don't be afraid to ask people about it, because international teachers are really helpful people. And I know in the past, friends who have warned other people off certain schools, and they're not frightened to do that. If they think it's not a great place for teachers, they'll say it. And just do it, because generally it's 2 years. I mean, some contracts go up to 3 if it's a leadership position, but generally it's 2 years, and, you can just enjoy something different for 2 years and go back with all that experience, and I know people who have done that too and got really good jobs in the UK, because the UK is getting very much more EAL based. I think London's got 25% EAL in their schools now.
Wow.
So you're going to have at least 5-6 kids in your class that need that support, and you can go in as the expert.
Well, we've done it again, folks. I would like to thank my co-host, JP Mint. You can find her at jpmintconsulting.com. Thank you so much, JP Mint. I would also like to thank our very special guest and author, Jess Gosling. You can find her Facebook group at New to International School Teachers, and you can find her book entitled Becoming a Successful International Teacher, a concise step-by-step guide to international teaching. Jess, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely.
And I'm Cat the Cat Guy, and as always, you can find me in room 303. See you next time.